Welcome back, everyone, to another segment of the MCR, Mac and Me. My name's TJ, and just a real quick plug. I'm going to keep plugging away for Rumble for a variety of reasons, but you can watch us on Rumble at MI Conservative Roundtable, all one word. MI Conservative Roundtable on Rumble. Okay. In this segment, something that Mac and I have talked about in different sort of ways. The high road Republicans and where we end up. When you take the path of what I call the high road Republicans, you end up with the short end of the stick. Really, I always say the high road the Republicans like to take leads us to the path of destruction. And I got the latest example of how these high road Republicans operate. Just last week, the Republicans lost a special election in New York. I think it was Long Island, though I don't quite remember the exact area. It was the district previously held by George Santos. Okay? Well, with the results of this special election, Republicans lost, and you know what? It wasn't even close, too. I mean, the Democrat beat the Republican. It was a Democrat male beating a Republican female, which, by the way, chose not to associate herself with Trump, from what I hear. You can add that into the mix.
Okay. Well, she's a high road Republican.
You know what? Yeah. Yes. You know what? Sure is. And she, you know what? She got her fanny spanked, basically handed to her, however you want to phrase it. Anyways, because of this loss, what are we left with? A 1-vote majority in the House of Representatives. Now, you talk about, the smell of blood in the water,
Oh, yeah.
But, hey, look, I'm not going to excuse George Santos. You could probably say the guy was a piece of excrement. Okay.
I would say that.
A little bit on the slimy side, but at this point, I'm compelled to become a political pragmatist. When you think about it, was Santos any worse? Is he any worse than AOC?
No.
Is he any worse than Rashida Tlaib, who said when she was running for her election, back in 2018, how she was referring to Trump, she was going to impeach the MFer?
That was Rashida Tlaib, right?
Yeah.
Said that.
So is Santos any worse than Rashida Tlaib? Is Santos any worse than Ilhan Omar, who married her brother to get around the immigration laws, getting her brother into the country?
Well, not only that, she also says that she's there to represent Somalia's interest.
Yeah, exactly. Is Santos any worse than Swalwell, who was having a thing with Fang Fang?
Yeah.
That Chinese
spy.
Yep, Chinese spy. Is Santos any worse than Shifty Shift? Okay, and I'm going to mention another person, even though this guy's in the Senate. Is George Santos any worse than Senator Menendez, who now he's in a scandal of being bribed in gold bars, and the joke of that is because of inflation and the economy and whatnot, he didn't want his money in cash. He wanted his money in gold bars.
Well, yeah, and this guy goes from one scandal to another. But
Yeah.
I'd like to touch on something. When we say that, when we criticize the high road Republicans, we do in principle agree with them. However, we don't live in principle. And what you call pragmatism, I call survival.
Yeah.
You know what? We're a couple of votes away, or a vote away, from them having the House, the Senate, and the presidency again.
And speaking about the hazards of one vote, honestly, I have a little mixed feelings about them going after Mayorkas. I mean, if it works in the end, great. I'm just not convinced it's going to work in the end. However, when they were trying to impeach Mayorkas, and they thought they were going to have it by one vote. And what do the Democrats do? They had that one guy, and the reason why they thought they had it by one vote, if you recall, man, we had a Republican that was in the hospital for what's almost sounded like outpatient surgery. I forget
Right.
the guy's name, the one that got shot up way back in
Scalise.
2016 or
Chief
2017. Yeah, Scalise. Thank you. But the Democrats had someone in the hospital going, recovering from an operation, and they got themselves an ambulance and brought this guy back to the house, kept him hidden away in another room, and the Republicans thought they had the vote by had it by one vote. Bada boom, bada bing. Here comes the guy in a wheelchair down the aisle.
It's not even the first time they've done that. If you don't remember, because you and I were too young at the time, but they brought John Kennedy in on a stretcher, on a gurney, to vote on a bill.
And and so the Republicans lost that vote that day. Santos was compelled to troll the Republicans and say, "Hey, if I had been there, if you guys hadn't kicked me out, you would have won that vote."
I think you and I both will agree that he needed to go. But we're not playing by the same rules. Let's say you and I are playing a baseball game, and you're playing it on the up and up as a matter of principle. And you have your pride, and you're on the high road. You're on the baseball high road. And we're going to play a game, and there's a lot at stake in this game. And you get a base hit, and you run to first. I get a base hit, and I run to third. Then I run home. I'm going to win the game because I don't care about cheating.
Yeah.
So what good at the end of the day, if the country is gone, what good do your high road principles do? You know what? If you wanted to argue, okay, when I stand in front of Jesus, I'll be clean. All right, I could give you that. But that's not what they're saying. They're talking about how principled they are and blah, blah, blah.
Well, and I've kind of made the case that these establishment Republicans, and I don't want to say DC Republicans, because you got you got an establishment Republican in Arizona trying to bribe Kerry Lake. We talked about that a couple weeks back. So, but these establishment Republicans, to make a play on words here, they're established financially, and it's almost as if they can afford the nonsense of the Democrats, whereas those of us in, we'll say, flyover country, I don't know how much more we can afford the Democrats' nonsense, which brings me to a point I wanted to make. The establishment Republicans are so detached from the flyover demographic group. I don't know if they really understand what it takes to even survive nowadays.
Right.
Here's
the thing. It's my theory, perhaps my conspiracy theory is these Democrats and these Republicans, they're all owned by the deep state. So they don't care. Because they're going to bounce on their feet, or at least they think they are. I mean, I don't know how it's really going to play out, but they think they're going to be fine. So they don't give a damn about you and I and anybody watching this channel.
Yeah, for sure. So, I was just compelled to discuss the hazards. What happened last week with the loss of that election, the result of the high road Republicans kicking Santos out of office, it started with the Democrats, and the Republicans gave in to the Democrats and said, well, he really is not a very good person. Well, we're above this. We need to disassociate ourselves with this lowlife here, and kick him out, and lose on principle. We'll say, moving forward,
because it means so much at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, and when I saw what happened just this past week, it just got me fired right back up of this whole highbrow, high road Republican nonsense that I don't know how much more I can stomach.
Right.
And I guess I was compelled to do my little rant. Okay.
Right.
So I guess that's all we got on this one. And stay tuned for a follow-up video because I'm going to rant on another issue, we'll say. So that's all I got for this one. Any final thoughts, Mac?
Nope. I just want to mention this was our 785th, and we got more coming.
Okay. All right. Thanks everyone for your support. Remember, MI Conservative Roundtable on Rumble. So I'm really starting to push that format. I think in the future that's going to be the platform to our advantage. Okay. And that's it. We'll call this one a wrap. As always, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.